It being 8 a.m. on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, the Public Service Committee meeting of the Gardner City Council will come to order. Record should reflect that all members, Councilors Lowers, Tyros, and Walsh are present. And anybody making the recording other than staff. Hearing none, we'll move to the first item, which are poll petitions 10907. Petition by National Grid to install new hand-holding equipment for the plant trial. Can you give us a report on that?
Sure. So all three of these petitions coincidentally are related. National Grid is, I spoke to the designer who's listed in the poll petition. There are a series of poles between Cross Street and Edgell, between Lawrence and Elm, where those homes on both Cross and Edgell are actually fed from poles that run in between the properties, on private property. So National Grid is trying to, hopefully, this is the first step, kind of do away with those.
We do it with private property pole?
Yeah, so they're looking to get rid of those. So the first petition, 10907, is simply to install two 3-inch conduits from an existing pole to a handhole, which is the little ground vault, on private property. So then they would be running some services to a couple of homes that way. So first petition is a simple one. It's just two 3-inch conduits from pole 10 feet to private property across the sidewalk. So I have no issue with that. That's a pretty straightforward one.
Do we know if the property owners have been notified?
I don't. I would hope National Grid is working with the property owners on this. They need an easement for the handhold because it's out of the right of way onto private property. So at some point they have to.
And there's no indication about removing the pole that's on private
Nope.
property?
Nope, that pole stays. It's on Edgell now. It's there. So they're just coming down off of it.
Okay, so this isn't a new pole location?
This is not a new pole location. It's really, the petition is for the conduits they're gonna install from the pole to private property.
Okay. So, but, and this one doesn't involve removal of any poles?
No.
Is there anything more that we should know about this particular one?
No, I'm fine.
Other than whether the property owners have been notified?
That would be the only thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is just a continuing matter. They won't come to, representative won't come to our meetings here to address these kinds of issues, so we have to bring them up at the public hearing with the full council.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sometimes can delay the process.
Unfortunately, that's on them.
That's their decision.
Yep.
But we get to make the ultimate decision as the council. Any other questions on this one?
No question.
Entertain a motion, recommend, or not?
Move to recommend considering notification to the property owner, however, but recommend to the council to pass it.
Second.
Second motion. Motion made and seconded to recommend passage, subject to an inquiry regarding involvement of the property owner, the private property owner involved. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Okay, the next one is, we're just going back to the other one, this is they're talking about excavation.
On the first one?
Is it the first one?
The first one would require some excavation because they're installing underground conduit.
Okay, and it's about 10 feet of excavation?
Roughly.
They have to get permits from you people?
They typically,
They would not, if they're
Yeah.
just on, if they're not on the roadway. We would require them to get a road opening permit.
Okay, so this would be another private property issue.
that was the first one. The second one is the relocation, 10908 is the relocation of one pole.
Okay, let's go into that, we've already.
Yep. So 10908, the second petition is relocating pole number 8 on Edgell Street. Again, this is just in their bigger scheme of removing the poles on the interior of these properties. I have no issue with it. It's just a pole removal and a relocation.
So this calls for relocation, but not necessarily removal.
No, existing pole number 8 will move and then be removed. It's moving 45 feet.
And it's moving from private onto onto city property?
Nope, this pole's currently in the right of way and it will remain in the right of way.
Okay, so it's pretty simple then.
That's a simple one.
Move to recommend to the full council?
Second.
Any discussion? Motion made and seconded. No discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, 10908. 10909, excuse me.
Correct. So this one's got a little bit more going on. It's to install 4 new poles on Cross Street in different locations. And what they're doing, pole number, so they're installing one pole, 2451, on Cross Street, basically between the 2 driveways to the side parking area of the Gourmet Solder School. So they're adding a pole in between 2 existing poles, and the goal there is to then install a new pole, 24-51, across Cross Street, basically at the dental office that's there. So that involves 2 poles, a new pole between existing poles, and then a new pole across the street from that with new overhead wires, which are not shown on the plan.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned.
Yeah, they weren't shown on the plan. I did that and mention it to the designer, and he said yes. Again, in an effort to remove all those poles behind Cross Street between Edgell and Cross. They're gonna come across and feed, I guess, a couple of buildings right there. So that's adding 1 new pole in between the existing poles and then an additional new pole across the street with overhead wires. Then further up Cross Street, heading towards Lawrence, there will be 2 new poles, 28-1 and 28-2, coming off of pole 28. So 28 is on the northerly side of Cross Street. There's existing overhead wires to pole 27, which is on the southerly side of Cross Street. They'll be adding 2 new poles on the northerly side of Cross Street to feed, there's 3 homes there that I believe would be fed. Again, new overhead wire on the north side of Cross Street for what they want to do. So I don't have any major issues with what they're doing. They didn't show the overhead wires, which I know typically we'd like to see to know.
I think we're obligated to, under the statute, to address the overhead wire issue.
Yeah, so the one, I did specifically talk about the overhead wires to pole 2451. I didn't specifically talk to him about the other section of Cross Street further to the east towards Lawrence. I'm making assumptions, so I'd rather see a plan that shows the wires so we know where they're going.
On both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see that. Typically, National Grid has also been staking their proposed pole locations.
Yeah, that was the other thing that
Yeah.
you mentioned.
They didn't in this case, which is helpful for me when I go out to take a look at it, to know exactly what they're thinking. Sometimes they paint them good and snowed over, I don't know. Not that I need to see it, but it's always helpful.
Well, they say approximate in the
Right.
description, so, if they stake it, that's a little more, better identified.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can clarify with driveways, trees, other obstructions might be if they've staked it out. I like that, so
Mhm.
I guess I would ask the council to request that on future
Well, I think
issues.
maybe we should do it with this one.
Or even this one.
My thought is that we hold on to this and ask that you contact them about submitting a revised plan, or plans that show the wiring
Yep.
and address the issue of the staking of the new poles. What do you think, guys, think about that?
I think that makes sense. I mean, there's nothing pressing about doing this, right?
It didn't sound like it from them, no.
Yeah.
Should we hold all 3 of these while we're waiting on this, or, I I mean, you mentioned they're all part of one plan.
I mean, they filed them as separate petitions, so the first two, I had no issue if the council chose to move those forward.
Okay.
This one, I would hold on to. In the grand scheme of things, it would hold them up anyway, if they were looking to go, because it's part of a larger plan.
Yeah.
So,
To request more time.
Second?
Yeah. Motion made and seconded to request more time on 10909. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So in the meantime, maybe you'll be, and if there's any news, you can let us know.
sure.
Okay, next item on the agenda is number 2, college greenhouse meter.
In your packet is an email from Jessica from the water department. We recently discovered a meter out in the greenhouse in the college that has been there for 4 years. That has never been billed. We haven't sent we didn't know it was there. It was installed by the college when they built the greenhouse there a few years ago. And we've never had it read. So we discovered it and took a reading of the usage, and I wanted just some feedback as far as what your thoughts were, how far we should go back. She kind of broke up, she found the usage of 21,700 cubic feet, and she just broke it up based on evenly.
Over the past
over the
4
last-
years?
Yeah, because the rate changed, so we wanted to make it at least fair, as fair as we can.
Yeah, you apply the rate that was in existence at the time?
Yeah, assuming that it was evenly used, which, I mean, we have no reason why we can't assume that at least, and then generated a bill for water and sewer. I did question if it's a greenhouse, should we at least maybe eliminate the sewer charge? Mike, who's our water foreman, went out there and said the way it's set up is that we should charge him for sewer as well.
Drainage is into the system?
Yeah, so that was just our thought. I'm sure some of it's absorbed by whatever they're growing. I haven't personally seen it, but I just wanted some feedback as far as.
So how is it that a meter got installed and put into use without us knowing about it? Do we have a sense of that?
I would assume state building, they're building it, they have a meter, they just installed it.
I mean, customarily, in order to install a meter, you need a permit from the city, I assume,
From the plumbing department, I would assume, but the state does things,
on their own.
yeah.
Well, I don't see any, my personal view is, I don't see any reason not to bill them for the full amount. I mean, I think we should have been notified when they connected to our system. I mean, aside from the meter issue, they connected to our system without our knowledge, connected to this meter without notifying us, until now.
Yeah, I mean, they worked with us with the water mains and the water services, but it's just,
Just got slipped through.
yeah. Okay, I just wanted some feedback.
What do you guys think?
I think it's fair to kind of go back and look at what the rate was. My only question is if the building's 4 years old, or do we think the water meter was installed at construction, or was it like an addition?
It was installed in 2019.
19?
Yeah, if they wanna come back and explain the
Yeah,
usage and the sewer part and,
so we'll bill them, if they want to bill it, they could.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's my, do you need a?
Nope, I just wanted to run it by you before.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
fair.
good enough. Next item, department updates. Just while passing, we have an email from Sophie Doro indicating that she has no additional news on her, in her area. So we'll move on to Public Works. Mr. Arnold, floor is yours.
Last meeting, we wanted some updates as far as like potential projects that we were working on or could potentially be working on. Since then, the mayor has approved funding for the salt shed across the street that we're gonna propose. So we got an estimate. We're working on obtaining a site plan and a building permit through the building department, which would involve, at that point, we could start working on the site. We're looking at doing it ourselves, doing the tree clearing, the site grading, kind of like what we did with this building.
Mm-hmm.
We're really in no, it's not like we're in a rush to get it done, so we just thought that we could, if the funding's there, we can pick away at it, and I think gonna save
And the
us.
site is owned by, we own the site?
Yes.
Across the street?
Yeah. So I just thought it
Do
was.
we have to move the tank or anything?
No, we're going across.
Maybe the tank can help.
Keep people away. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and then we don't need water or sewer or anything like that. What else we would need is some power with some lighting, things like that, and some paving. But we're looking at building it large enough to hold possibly like around 3,000 ton, which we barely get 1,000 ton in down here, so I think,
So we triple our storage capacity?
yeah, so we're gonna triple it, and it's gonna be one of those, like, I'll call it canvas type covers and
Mhm.
domes and whatnot, so that's what we're looking
Is it a
at.
dome type?
Yeah, it's a dome, it's gonna have a closed one end and the other end's gonna be open,
Yeah.
so, well, that's the plan.
And how is it being funded?
I believe it's ARPA money.
Oh,
Said
okay.
That, the mayor's okay, so he gave me the capital account, so.
I know that ARPA money doesn't require council appropriation, I don't think.
I believe so.
It's well needed. I don't know if you're driven by the salt shed down there, and
It's, time has come.
yeah. And the other plan is we can remove that, it's gonna be in a better position. It's not gonna be as close to the river, so environmentally, it's gonna just be a better location for a salt shed, so.
Does, when we purchase salt, the fact that we have greater capacity, will it likely improve our buying position because we're buying more?
We're gonna look into that, because right now we're in a group with Oxford and a bunch of other communities. So right now we're getting a bulk cost for our salt. But we're gonna look into maybe if we could purchase during the summer, will it drive the cost down, because we can at least maybe get,
In storage?
so we are gonna look into that. But
Okay.
as of right now, we don't have an answer on that one.
Okay.
With the old location, does this include taking that down as well?
No, no,
No.
no.
Was the plan just to leave it for now, or to take it down?
Plan is to remove it and, you know, maybe create parking or storage or something like that, clean it up a little bit. Questions? He also, we had talked about disc golf. He had approved $25,000, I believe the council approved this.
Yes.
Last year, $25,000, so we have already purchased 18 baskets. I know nothing about disc golf, so, but we're gonna be proposing it up off of Leo Drive in the woods, and from what I understand,
I thought it was gonna be around Pearly Brook.
we looked into that, and we're actually working with Ben from the fire department, who I guess is an avid disc golf, and he said, took a look at the Leo Drive area and the Pearly Brook. Leo Drive area is much better as far as, we don't have to go really, they don't want tree cleared, they want, more or less just paths
Yeah.
to play it.
The trail.
Trails, so we wouldn't use the existing trail because people would walk, but would kind of like spoke off of it down around in that area. And I think it would be a good fit for that neighborhood because it's not, I mean, you're talking about maybe a couple of cars, they go out and they play for a few hours. It's not like a soccer game or something like that, so I just thought that was a.
Doesn't attract crowds, yeah.
Right. So that's in the works, and we're gonna be working on that over summer. Ben's more or less said, he goes, it could take up to 2 years. By the time you build it, you tweak it, you might have to move a basket here and there, and so, again, I don't know nothing about the sport, but I have to look into it.
You need permits or anything like that of that sort?
I don't think so. I mean, probably if we're near the river, we might have to talk to conservation.
And there'll be a plan that's prepared.
Yes.
I'd be curious to see the plan once it's put together.
Yeah, that would be more or less the GIS plan of the city and the little lines and.
A plan for the location of, at least initially.
Yep.
There'll be a plan for where it's gonna, where the trails are gonna be and where the locations for the baskets will be, and
Right,
I assume there'll be a plan of some kind.
we'll walk the site and try to flag it, and then we have GIS that can go out and locate it. We can put something together.
And that'd be good.
Yeah.
Anything on that?
Nope.
Just don't ask me about the rules.
Go Frisbee.
Uh,
Less time is better, that's all I know.
We also approved $200,000 for OC playground improvements, which is.
Over the case?
Over the case, yeah. That's the wooden structure that is, it's time to, it's
Get
time.
done all around the playground.
Yeah, I know,
I remember it well, going up.
we did we did a section of it a couple of years ago, and, right now I'm working on a proposal with the company that, it's under a state contract to get some playground equipment to remove the wooden structure up there and replace it with some modern, safer equipment that doesn't splinter.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. Once we get a plan, I can share.
Yeah, we'd be happy to see what the plan would be when it's available.
Yep.
Structure's what, like 30+ years old, right, 33 years old, like that?
All of that,
And it went up when I was in kindergarten. So,
yeah.
maybe
I remember working on it.
35.
It was a real community project at the
Yeah.
time, you know, it was a lot of people, a lot of volunteer work. But the pressure-treated wood isn't forever.
No. Oh, and part of that project is, we're looking at putting in a pickleball, park down there. Again, I know nothing about
New
sport.
location or in
Yeah.
replacing an existing,
Completely new. Might probably look at maybe putting it over near the tennis courts, the new basketball courts, somewhere over on that site.
so it's not gonna interfere with the ball field or anything.
No, we'll keep it outside the park.
Curious to see a plan, like what the plan is for that when it's in that developmental stage.
So there's that. Are there any questions on?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, there's been a lot of residential development in that neck of the woods, and I think having expanded availability of recreational facilities is a good idea.
Yeah.
And combined with the one where we're gonna be putting the disc golf.
Right.
I mean, that's not a playground, but it's a recreational location.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize even at OC Playground now, there's brand new basketball courts that are down there. There's a parking area off of Norman Street now, and there's grills. There's 2 grills that people can bring in and give you a little cutout, some picnic tables down there. So, it's a nice park. We do have an opening in the clerk's position. Jessica's last piece of work was actually the email that she sent.
She's moving on.
She moved on, so we've got a bunch of resumes. I think there's 18 applicants.
Oh, great.
So we're going through that. Looks like some pretty good candidates, so we'll be conducting interviews probably next week and hopefully can fill it soon.
When is she done?
She's been gone since the 17th of February, so.
Okay. And what about the crew?
Crew, we're down 7 total. We just hired 1 applicant. Seems like a good kid, but we just can't get anybody with CDLs or TIG. It's strictly we can hire laborers with no experience, and that's what we get.
So, I mean, you're not getting responses for the CDL people, is that what you mean, or?
We tell them our salary and they
They
refuse.
And that's the end of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how to politely say it, but we just don't pay.
We're not competitive?
No.
Is there any talk about changing the scale?
I'm drafting something myself that I'm gonna present to the city at some point, or to the mayor, and,
I mean, this problem isn't gonna go away.
no.
Probably just gonna get worse.
No, and you train somebody, like for instance, the sidewalk tractor, we train someone for the sidewalk tractor, they learn the route, they learn where the sidewalk is, and they meander some places. If the operator gets familiar with that, you're not driving on someone's lawn. Well, that driver leaves, you get someone new, and the public, we're literally tearing up lawns, and a lot of people might not think of that, but that's why some lawns get damaged, is because over time, the operator he needs to relearn the route.
Learn the route, where the sidewalk is,
Right.
not always apparent.
No. And speaking of
Sidewalks.
Yeah, sidewalks, yes, it's on the docket. We're gonna wait till school. Actually, I already reached out to Mass Broken and Stone, and we're gonna schedule that for when school gets out in July. So
Yep.
it's already in the works.
We're talking about Lawrence Street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did look at asphalt versus concrete. Concrete is twice as much. It's almost two times as much to do it.
I thought when we talked about it last time, the concrete was more seemed to be more competitive than.
It did, and it's still under the concrete, under the contract, but in order to do the driveway aprons and things like that, you're talking about doing the ends of people's driveways and making it work.
From the sidewalk to the road?
Yeah, it's just not, that jacked the price up. So with asphalt, it's much cheaper, it's half the cost.
Yeah.
And time-wise, I would have a guy up there for probably a month and a half, working, prepping that, setting, we have a company sets the forms, but he's gotta do all the grading and everything like that, so I just don't have the staff to do that along with, you know, the salt shed and the.
We'll do what we can.
Yeah, so it's gonna get done, unfortunately, it's gonna get done in asphalt.
Yep.
There'll be concrete ramps, handicap ramps. I'm looking at putting them on each side of Pearl Street where Lawrence Street comes down and crosses. There's a crosswalk that's hidden kind of behind a telephone pole. We're gonna move that up the street a little bit and give it a little bit more sight view for the crosswalk. So there'll be some small changes there, but it's gonna be nice.
I meant to ask you about it because I was up at that food truck on Vernon Street there recently, and that's a nice concrete sidewalk.
Yes, it is. And back to snow and ice, just an update. A lot of people may think this is a mild winter, but it's the snow, it's the ice these ice storms that are killing us financially. This is actually gonna turn out to probably be the most expensive winter that the city's had. The other day, for instance, we only got 3 inches of snow. It snowed out all day long. We went out 4 times. It's $10,000 every time we go out. So that storm cost us 40 grand. Hopefully, if we get snow on this coming Saturday, if it's just snow, even if we got a foot of snow, it's probably gonna cost us half as much. Because you treat it, you plow, you get it done, you treat it again, you're done. So we may be out there longer, but we're not treating it. It's
The product, the use of product is reduced.
So, yeah, we spent, the cost of salt has gone from $65 a ton just a few years ago, it's up to $95 a ton now. So it's a 50% increase in salt, and we've also used more this year, you know, given the conditions, so that's where we're at.
So we're in a deficit by how much, as of when?
We budget 300K, and we're 440 in the hole right now. But my understanding is the city's budgeted 900,000 for this year, given the cost of fuel.
900,000 additional, beyond
Total,
what's budgeted?
total, 900 total, I believe, was set aside for snow and ice.
So with another 600,
We have 160K, I believe, remaining in the city's budget.
okay.
And when I say budget, that's not
Budget,
my budget.
just a reserved allocation from free cash.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's my understanding.
Maybe that's something that, has that been addressed at all recently in the finance committee?
I guess I had understood it as, and maybe I understood it wrong, obviously, things were heard more, I thought it was 900 additional, but,
Oh, okay.
but I'm not sure of that, I'll have to back and check, I thought that's what we were holding, but, particularly in finance committee, no.
Yeah, okay. Well, but, I mean, we're getting near the end.
I hope so. That's all I got.
Anything, nothing else, any questions on these topics?
Just on the Lawrence Street sidewalk, if there's any opportunity to make that Temple intersection safer, sidewalk wise, I think that'd be a good opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
In what respect?
If you're walking, I believe the sidewalk ends on Lawrence when you hit the old church.
It continues up Elm, but if you're crossing
To
Temple to go down Temple, there's nothing.
I think that's where, yeah, the crossover to Temple was a bit
Yeah,
harrowing.
there's no sidewalk on the north side of Temple Street.
No.
No.
You have to go all the way over to the south side of Temple.
Yeah, there's a crosswalk, I believe,
Goes across
Temple, at the end, very end of Temple. We jump over the island, and I know when I cross it, I just look both ways or 4 ways and go for it.
Yeah, it's about a 5-way look.
Yeah.
But if there's any opportunity
Yeah.
to look at safety wise, that intersection.
Yeah, the whole intersection, right up, on the stop sign and
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
stop sign that, you have to yield to somebody at a stop sign.
Well, it's the one that notifies traffic to take a, just to be
That's,
careful.
that still confounds me. Yield to somebody at that facing a stop sign.
That's why I brought it up.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Anything else on the director's presentation? Okay. Mr. Engineer?
So I have a couple of things for you. Just brief update on the Uptown Rotary. As you know, council approved the takings. So very shortly, a letter will go out to the property owners notifying them of the taking. And there's still a process I have to follow with Mass DOT to make sure we're crossing all our Ts, dotting all our Is on the right-of-way issues. So that's nearly at an end. And then, as far as I know, it's still set to go out to bid the end of April.
They do that.
The Mass DOT, beyond the right-of-way issues, from that point on,
It's all their project?
It's mostly Mass DOT at that point. So
Okay.
from bid to construction, it's all the state.
And it's planned for this construction year?
Yep, so I don't think that's changed. I haven't heard anything new on that, so we should be good to go on that. So if you have any other questions,
No, it's, there isn't a, I mean, is there a plan for a start date or,
I believe it's July-ish.
yeah, the construction timeframe?
It's a one-year project,
Yeah.
so hopefully it doesn't linger too long beyond that, because that's a busy intersection.
Yeah.
Will they be paving just the construction area or tying it to?
It'll tie a little ways back up into all the roads coming down into it, because there are slight changes, but I wanna say it goes up Pearl about as far as the museum, for instance, and up, or down Elm, it goes somewhere in front of the Legion. So it doesn't go too far, but it will tie back in and, be a smooth transition to, all the roads. But yeah, no, it's gonna be a fun project.
Well, it's their headache.
Well, we'll hear about it.
You'll
but,
hear about it, yeah. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to us?
Right, yeah.
Speaking of the tie-ins, I know the entrance to Pearl Street, up even past the library, or the museum, is in pretty tough shape. And I'm wondering if we know what the terminus is of their plan, whether there's any possibility that we can extend it to as far as some distance to cover the additional area that's in bad shape.
Usually the state has a limit of work,
Yeah.
and that's it.
No, I don't mean for them, I mean, it would
Oh,
be
for
the
us?
city, for us to do.
Yeah, that's on our radar.
Okay. Because it's in pretty tough shape,
Yeah.
going
Going
up
up
that,
that little
up
hill
to
right
the,
there.
up to the crest of the hill there.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything what we're getting for chapter 90, or usually by now we hear rumblings in the state that you're getting what they call RAP money for potholes, cities and towns. I haven't heard anything, so I don't know what's,
A new administration probably that haven't gotten around to it.
just waiting.
Anything about the Uptown Rotary? Yeah. Okay.
The only other thing I wanted to update you on was the sludge landfill. So as you know, MEPA came back with a certificate that is requiring a draft EIR. So what that is rather than a full scope EIR, environmental impact report, it's a more focused report where they're giving us what they'd like to see for additional scope beyond what was reported in the environmental notification form. So we have that certificate. We're talking with our consultant on next steps, how to put that together. We have a pretty long bullet list from our consultant of the things that they want to address. We're still early on in that process, so we don't really have a timeline yet on when things will be done. But the state felt that there was enough there that, in particular, two things of note is they want more analysis of the alternatives, and then they also are pushing for public involvement. So whether we do, public meeting type presentations. One thing MEPA over the last couple of years has worked into their review thresholds are environmental justice populations, which we have two of, low income and, English speaking, I think the two of them. The biggest one is the low income EJ population. So they want us to target in our public involvement those EJ populations.
Even though we're outside the perimeter of that.
They felt that we were so close that we should, so.
So close that we have to.
Yes, yeah, which drives me crazy because they give you.
What's the point of having it?
Right,
if
they
you're
give
gonna
you
say
a
go
1
beyond that?
mile radius and then say, well, you know, you're so close, you should look at it. So I feel your sentiment. It drives me crazy when you have guidelines and rules and regulations to go by and then they suddenly make them just a little bit more restrictive.
They also want us to look into a part of the analysis, a cost analysis on bringing our sludge to a facility that's not even built yet or permitted. So how do we come up with a cost analysis of that? It's just, we'll work on it.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll provide them the information they're looking for and.
But the time frame for responding, they haven't provided you with a time frame during which by which they want it?
I don't believe there is, I mean, I'm sure there's some limit, but we have lots of time, I would imagine. I can,
Oh.
we'll look into
Our
that more.
consultant's already working on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're.
Who is our consultant?
Woodard and Curran?
The engineering firm?
Yes. Yeah, they've done this before. Unfortunately, there's a cost to all this. You know, this is gonna end up costing the community more.
Sure.
In one of the, I pushed on this at our scoping session and in our comments and meetings with MIPA is, you know, I understand why we have to consider the EJ populations, but in this particular case, the impact to that population if the project doesn't move forward is obviously we're gonna have to raise sewer rates because we have to dispose of our sludge, and that's gonna impact the very people you're trying not to, so it's.
Oh, and that extends beyond the city of Gardner as well, I assume, that EJ population, some portion of it is in Templeton, I assume.
Ashburnham.
Yeah.
Ashburnham as well?
Yeah, because their rates will go up as well, so it's,
That's right.
so, just a little bit ironic, but that's what they wanted. So at some point, we'll be reaching out to the community through meetings or presentations, and again, ironic because DEP is gonna make us do the same thing, and the two state agencies couldn't come together and agree to, let's just do it once, so. And that's part of the actual permit with DEP for the sludge landfill, is they're gonna require us to do some public involvement. So, yeah, it's, I understand why they want it, but it's, it seems like overkill to me. But we'll do what they want and get the project going.
Yeah, good enough. Anything else, any questions about the sludge landfill status?
That's all I have for you today.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Jones, anything?
I have nothing.
Councilor Tyros?
I have nothing, thank you.
Speaking of Ashburnham, wasn't there a dispute about what they owed us for water?
Ironically, last night I got an email from their selectman, or town manager, and they have signed the intermunicipal agreement, and they've mailed it to us, and we just got our city's signature, and they've agreed
I
to.
mean, that's a long time ago that and they've been using our water, haven't they?
Yes, yeah, it was for all the upgrades at the wastewater plant. They always said it was like $585,000. So we've agreed to split out, I think it's $80,000 payments over the next 6 or 7 years to pay it off. So we literally just got that email. I haven't even read it yet, but there you go.
Magic.
Yeah,
What's this, since 2015?
yeah, 2015. It's been
I was
expired.
gonna say, it's a long time ago that we approved that intermunicipal agreement, I think, on our end.
Right. Yeah, it expired in 15, so it's been a long time. But they've been through changes of administration.
But they haven't been, we didn't decide to shut them off, though.
Close. Real close.
So he had to be talked down a couple of times.
Well, sometimes you need that kind of brinksmanship to make things happen. I have nothing else unless not, if there's nothing further, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, meeting stands adjourned.